Okay, welcome back to Comic History, episode number 85. This one is a bit of a rant. It's kind of, in a way, a big problem with this one character, where he's been more consistent nowadays compared to before recent times. For the period of basically about 2011 to basically about 2019, Green Arrow has a very inconsistent how he's written. I had heard this complaint a lot. Like, every book he shows up in, he's like virtually a completely different character. It's like his personality is completely off. And also the fact that he went through more writers in 8 years than anybody else did. And you think Superman went through a lot of writers, which kind of he did, but look at Green Arrow. Like, in his first 6 issues of the relaunch of the New 52, he had like 4 writers in 6 issues. So, we started up the run with, this is your creative team for Green Arrow, Volume 5. You have J.T. Crow, Dan Jurgens, and George Perez. Interesting lineup, having George Perez inking, but Dan Jurgens is an interesting little fun factoid because this actually is the first time he's been artist this book since Volume 2. And if you're curious, J.T. Crow is only here for 3 issues, and then he leaves. Yes, he leaves. And we also did Jurgens do some co-writing with Keith Giffen. And then J.T. Crow leaves with Keith Giffen and Dan Jurgens. Kind of a weird duo. And they kind of continue what was going on before. And, by the way, like, the whole thing with these, like, characters. And then, like, with issue 7. Like, okay, this has basically been 6 issues, and we had a total number of 3 writers for 6 issues. Which, that's a bit much. And then we finally settled down with Ann Nesenti. But she only did 10 issues. Though she did continue basically the whole thing with Sky Lark. That was a character in the previous issue 6. But the thing is with Sky Lark is at first it was 3 triplet, it was 3 blonde girls. And then the other 2 disappeared for some reason. They disappeared. Oh, and there was these like villains basically that J.T. Crow and Dan Jurgens introduced. And then, like, as soon as they leave, with the exception of Skylark, all these other villains are dropped for no reason. They're just dropped. And then you had Ann Nesenti having a weird start. There's also a thing where, he's running out of money. And this kind of was a plot thread throughout all this. And then by the time that you actually had Jeff Lemire to go over the book, anything that Ann Nesenti was doing. By the way, we had sort of a reference to JLA, which for like 1 issue. And then like by the next issue, he's perfectly fine. Yeah, basically like, with the exception of Green Arrow and his supporting cast, everything the previous writer did, that's ignored. And then we have more stabilized with Jeff Lemire, which of course he had a very popular run, which lasts 17 issues. Which basically, this for like classic Green Arrow, like having a new villain Komodo, bringing Count Vertigo, which I'll get back to him soon. Which he's only here for this run, and then he's not seen again until he pops up in Justice League for a couple issues. Is when Brian Hitch wrote the book. And then he returns to Green Arrow with a completely new look, and by the way, all that history he had, virtually ignored by the new writer. I'll get back to that, don't worry. And I think I had this really good theory at the time, basically, when the book was coming out, is that, I think the book basically was not doing too well financially, and the book itself probably was at risk of, I have a theory about this, is that when Ann Nesenti wrote the book, she kind of kept the book a little bit stabilized. I'm just basically spitballing here. And I'm thinking possibly it could have been on the chopping block, but canceled Probably because basically the writing wasn't very good for the book. And then we had the Hawkman Wanted crossover step in, which that was a really interesting crossover. I think indirectly that helped save the title. And the title managed to last longer than that. I'm just theorizing about this. By the way, in case you're curious, and this entity did issue 7 to issue 16. Yeah. Only about 10 issues. And then she leaves. 17, of course, basically begins. Now, one thing I should point out, though, the cover of the issue 17 has Green Arrow drawn like the actor from Smallville. No joke. Also, like, one of the supporting cast who have been there since issue 1, a guy by the name of Jax. It's like Jeff Lemire had zero plans for this character, and then like, oh, let's kill him off for no reason. At least the character Naomi was kept around. Yes. And she was here from start to basically issue 40. Yes. And by issue 40, she is dropped and never seen again. Did she die? No. She was just dropped for no reason. Oh, and they brought in the others, which I like the whole idea, basically, of the... I also like the Outsider Tribe. That was a really cool idea. Yeah, it's like Lemire had great ideas. And then when we transitioned to Andrew Kreisberg, this felt like a good transition. Because it felt like he didn't ignore what the previous writer did. He just continued a little bit. Like, by the way, in this run, we introduced Green Arrow's sister Miko. We brought in Shadow, which... In the pre-Flashman continuity, Shadow slept with Oliver Queen when he had the fever. In this continuity, she slept with his father Robert. Now, Shadow was about Green Arrow's age, and she sleeps with a man who's twice her age to have her daughter Miko, who starts this book out as a little girl, and then she starts aging. I was kind of surprised the fact they allow her to age, given the fact some writers love basically. Oh, we also introduced a character name of Henry Fife, we issue 18, and well, surprisingly, Ben Percy keeps this guy around, but not appearing very much. Well, in the case of Volume 6. There may have been a reason why, because, well, what was going on in the book at the time. And then after issue 40, that's where the book started to change once again. Where you have Ben Percy take over the book, and he remained the writer even for the relaunch. Now, the biggest problem with the first 6 issues. So, it's like, okay, let's just reset the character just because we have a brand new writer. I don't know exactly what the reason for this. Mika was still kind of there. Ish. Oh, by the way, also in the previous issues, we bring in Felicity Smoke, and she's basically the adaptation of the character from Arrow, who, by the way, after this story wraps up, after Kreisberg wraps up his run, she disappears, never to be seen again. They also bring in Cupid in these issues. Yes, they bring in Cupid. And here's the weird thing. After these 2 issues, no one sees her again into an issue of the most recent volume of the series. Yeah, no one saw her again in comics for, get this, 8 years. Why the heck they basically just put this character aside? We also introduced Mia Dearden in this storyline. Yes, Mia Dearden, whose father was the main villain of the storyline. who apparently died. But here's the thing about this guy, John King. He is never mentioned again. It's like, oh, don't mention the fact that basically Mia Dearden had a dick of a father. And, okay, so like, right after this run, no one sees her again. Which, by the way, the last issue for this was in 2015. She's not seen again until issue 10 of the most recent volume of Green Arrow, which was 9 years later. Why the heck it took so long to bring this character back is a complete mystery. Felicity Smoke, which, yes, she was a character from Free Flashpoint. Yes, she was. But here's the thing. Here's another character who was originally created for this story arc, and then as soon as the story wraps up, she's never seen or heard from ever again. You're like, okay, so why would you bring this character in just to drop her? Good question. But one thing really cool about this run is that we brought in, well, actually Jeff Lemire brought him in, John Diggle. You know, the supporting character from the TV show. Which I was so happy they brought this guy in. He was a great character. And then he's dropped from the book. For how long, you might ask? For an entire year, he is never seen. He is seen throughout a lot of Ben Percy's run when he wrote Green Arrow for the relaunch. And then seen once, popped up 2 more times after that, and that was it. Now, one thing at least got praised Ben Percy did do for the book was the fact he basically gave the book an annual. Like, I'm not sure how long it took to get a freaking annual for the character. The one thing controversial about his first arc, the first 6 issues, is that he brought in Tarantula. You know, the woman who raped Nightwing. Who, get this, after her appearances from issues 44 to 47, get this. Guess what was her next appearance? Let's see if I can find it here. Nope. And this might surprise you. She did come as a merchandise in Harley Quinn, but in the case of, let's see. The cameo in the 3rd anniversary special. She did appear in an issue of Night Terror's Nightwing as probably a dream cameo. Yeah, as a dream cameo. And get this, she kind of appeared in an issue of Nightwing as, you guessed it, a flashback. So, she is not anything proper as a character since issue 47. Yeah, which is back in 2016. It's been 9 years since she was last seen, and not been seen since then. It's like, aside from a cameo in the Harley Quinn 80th anniversary one-shot, she hasn't done virtually anything. She's done nothing. Like, what was the point of reintroducing this character if you're not going to do anything with her at all? That was the really big problem. She's only here for a few issues, and then you have Green Arrow become a werewolf. One thing Lisa appreciated about this run is that Green Arrow was going with facial hair. Because Green Arrow, for some strange reason, I'm not sure why Dan DiDio did this for, he got rid of the popular goatee that Neil Adams introduced back in the 70s. You know, the Valkyrie goatee, people think of Green Arrow. Oh yeah, that's gone. And then with basically with Rebirth, he brought it back. Which I'm glad he did. Yeah, and then basically for the last 2 issues, it's like, oh, let's basically turn Oliver Queen to a werewolf for a couple issues. And then issue 50, have him fight frickin' Deathstroke. For reasons. Yes, I am not kidding about that. He fights Deathstroke in issue 50. And issue 51, it's like, yeah, let's fight Deathstroke because he fought him in a TV show. Okay. Yeah. And then you have the relaunch. By the way, we also had the Count Vertigo one-shot, so I thought that was really cool. Yeah, how Green Arrow got introduced to Count Vertigo in this continuity is that he went to his country and actually met him. Yeah, because look, else. And then we have the relaunch, which was awesome, by the way. Like, this relaunch brought Eddie Fires into continuity, which I was shocked they brought this guy in because it was interesting. Of course, they also bring in Billy Talkman. Yeah, he was introduced in the previous line for the book. And he was somebody basically that they yeah, where they have this guy. I'm trying to find him here. Because when he was brought into this book, I was kind of surprised they brought this guy in. Who was it? Eddie Fires. Yes, Eddie Fires. And they brought him in issue 10. And I love the fact they kept the design from the brief Flashpoint. And here's the sad thing about him. It's like, once Ben Percy wraps up his run, he's never seen again. And I love Knife Circle stuff. But there's all a bunch of corruption. It was a really cool concept. Also the fact that his mom was alive, which that was surprising. Yeah, no one knew she was alive. And then she dies again. You're like, what? Yeah. By the way, the Knife Circle, they're pretty much in the way eviscerated once basically Ben Percy wraps up his run. And my problem with his finale, it felt very abrupt. It felt as though there should have been more here. And plus, he brought in Constantine Draken, who was a character who was in a long-time enemy Green Arrow, who was with Joe Winnick when he wrote Green Arrow. And then, like, this is really weird. So, after this one issue, we don't see Constantine Draken. He pops up in Josh Williams' Robin book. Yeah. Whoops, other books, but yeah, so bring a really cool character. Also, Green Arrow was actually framed for murder. Yeah, of this woman named Wendy Poole, who was a employee of his from the previous volume for the book. I thought it was a really cool concept with this book. It's like Ben Percy had so many cool ideas. And then he left. Which I probably get a chance when I see my comic Con, probably think it was canceled. And then for some strange reason, I'm not sure why this was. So then Ben Percy left. Had Colin Kelly and Jackson Lazy come in for a couple issues. They also came back for the final 2 issues of the book. And they come in and they do a follow-up to their Deathstroke annual, which anybody in this is like, wait, why in the world is Green Arrow in this country? It felt random. I actually tried to ask about this. He seemed very insistent. People kind of knew about it. That's why I kind of forgot this country existed in the first place. They do kind of reference Deathstroke, but it's almost like, what's the point of it? He gets his comic back and then he goes to another country? What? And after these 2 issues, we have Marguerite Scott take over the book. Which, interesting. We have this writer doing this book, and she is not here very long. She's only here for 2 issues, leaves, and then we have the Bensons, who had an excellent, and this is my honest opinion, they had an excellent set of issues. They ran this book from 43 to 48. These issues were excellent. And then they left. And I read an article the reason why they left, and it seems so kind of dumb. Like, they're here for this one story arc. which lasted from 43 to 47, a 5-parter. They leave. And then we bring in Colin Kelly Jackson Lazy again. Which basically involves... Oh, by the way, Count Vertigo, like, he got a completely different... He got a redesign here. Where he's got a coat now. It's like, okay, so what was the point of introducing him? It's like, okay, so they bring him in, they give him this really cool outfit, and then like, oh yeah, let's basically just redesign him for apparently no reason. Oh, and also, let's establish a retcon that Roy Harper previously fought him, despite the fact it was established when Jeff Lemire wrote the book. This first thing, I found this so confusing. And this was, you guessed it, a retcon. And then the book ends 3 issues, like after this quick 3-parter, they end the frickin' book at issue 50. Which, okay, so volume 6 had this annual. Yes, had 2 annuals. The first annual was basically still part of the book, was actually really interesting. And number 2 was weird. Because this would tie into No Justice. He was given a black box. And then it's almost like the writer just forgot about this box. He opens the box and there's nothing inside of it. Then why was it anything in the first place? And by the way, this black box is never seen again. And then I read an article like, oh, the book ends because DC want to take a new direction. And new direction is become part of the main Justice League team as a leader because Bendis wrote the book. Apparently Bendis wanted him to lead the team for some reason. I don't know the reason for it, but he did. He apparently was not allowed to have an ongoing series for a period of time. I kept hoping DC Comics released an ongoing series for him. But no, it took 4 years to release in their volume. Which, by the way, Volume 6 went from 2016 to 2019. This most recent volume just did almost 2 years ago. Yes, I kid you not. The first issue of the most recent volume was released back in April of 2023. The final issue of the previous volume, I believe it was released in March. So it took DC Comics 4 years to release another volume for this character. And I have to say this. Why did it take so long? Like, I had no problem part of Justice League. Allow him to have his ongoing series. But the book is really good on Josh Williamson. Even though I heard he was leaving soon with the book, which I'm kind of surprised, because originally it was going to be limited, it was really hard to be long, which it was. Actually still is. Another problem, basically, with Green Arrow, is that when he appeared, like, outside the title, it's like, the character you read in his ongoing book is not the same character. It's almost like the editors of DC Comics had this role as, like, a lot of people are like, can we keep continuity with this character? Nope. Green Arrow probably had to be the most inconsistent character that DC Comics had for the past decade. I mean, that was a big issue a lot of people had. If you read this book, it's very inconsistent. It's like, you think when DC would change writers for these books, it would feel like the previous run mattered. But not Green Arrow. Oh God, no. It felt as though like, oh, all those establishing stuff for these characters. Oh, let's just hit the restart button for the character stuff and just throw that run away and pretend it never happened. Because some of these writers are like, oh, my run matters because I'm the writer of the book. It doesn't freaking matter. But yet, this is also really weird. Ben Purvis wrote this book from 2015 to 2016. Actually, more like 2017, mind you. Yeah, he wrote this book for about 2 or 3 years. And you read the first volume he did, which is the last 12 issues of the previous volume, and you read the Rebirth one. It feels like 2 completely different books. Also, for some reason, I did still point this out, though, that apparently Black Canary was kept away from Green Arrow for 5 years. And I don't know the reason for this. Like, why would you keep Black Canary, who is Green Arrow's who's his longtime love interest, why would you keep these two away from each other and then have it where the Rebirth one-shots when they first meet? Yes, seriously. That's the first meet and they sleep together. Also, that's when they gave her a new costume. And one thing I did like about this character is that she's featured in 3 series. And you think Batman was basically overdoing Wonder Woman, but Black Canary featured in 3 titles at once. Featuring Green Arrow's supporting character. She was also featured in Just Like America and Batgirl and Birds of Prey, which I thought that was awesome. At least she was doing consistently. Her costume wasn't, but character-wise she was. But not the case of Green Arrow. It's like it's like continuity smartnuity. Now, I don't know if this is the writer's idea to basically be inconsistent or was his editor. I don't really know. But that's been a big problem with Green Arrow that I've had. I know you think, oh, this is just a rant. But this is all stuff that happened. Like, just read the books and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yes, the Rebirth one was very consistent throughout the whole book, but it felt as though the previous volume was... It felt as though, like, every time he shows up, it's like something else. It felt as though, like, any person who wrote these characters has to just undo anything the previous writers did. Like, I'm not exactly saying you should uphold the basically... Just say it happened and not just reboot it like in the case of Count Vertigo. Let's reboot this character for no reason. Let's just shoehorn in a flashback fight with Roy Harper, even though if you go by this continuity's rules, when Jeff Lemire wrote Count Vertigo, that was the first time they ever met. And then they had, I think they were trying to reestablish stuff. But did they also need to change his costume? I should point something interesting about Count Vertigo. Pre-Flashpoint, from, I would say this from the late 70s up until the New 50 relaunch, Count Vertigo had only one costume. He had the same exact costume the whole time. But at least never changed it. They kept his continuity intact. Yeah, he was probably the most consistent villain. It just, the problem was, it's just like DC didn't want to fight Green Arrow for some reason. At least currently they have him fight him. But it feels very... Also, apparently he was a friend of Roy Harper's. I'm like, what? Yeah, apparently he was a friend of... He basically just became a friend of Roy Harper's, which... That's like Count Vertigo to me. I know some people might not believe me when it comes basically to inconsistency. Here's what I recommend reading. Read the entire 5th volume of Green Arrow, which is 52 issues and 1 annual. Read the Rebirth book. Read Just Like America Volume 3. Or any other book that Green Arrow is featured in from the period of 2011 to 2019. And you can tell it's very inconsistent. And that, in my honest opinion, was a big problem with the character. At least now he's written perfectly fine. I appreciate the way Josh Williamson writes him. At least if here's our books, at least he's consistent. Yes, I'm glad his continuity's finally been straightened out, because that's a big issue with this character. And also, okay, let's have where he's involved with the Checkmate. I like what Bendis did with him in the book. It's just that, why couldn't he have a solo book? that just didn't make any sense to me. I would love to hear the reason why. Like, I kind of did ask the Colin Kelly actually asked Lena Biggest, like, was book canceled because the DC took a new direction? From what I was told, that actually is kind of true. They did want to take a new direction. The direction was Ben just wanted Justice League. That was new direction. At least that part was even true, but a lot of the air stuff, if you read it, it's like, yeah, it feels like a completely different book. I'm not saying the books are serialized 52 issues. I'm not saying it at all. Just have the consistent stuff happen in the book. Not just ignore stuff that's established and just basically just say that, oh, he's with these 3 women, and then next issue their 2 of them are just dropped for no reason. I don't know. Were they merged? It just... Now, I don't know. Now, it did become more stabilized when Jeff Lemire wrote the book, and then became more destabilized once Andrew Kreisberg wrote the book, because I would probably say throughout the existence of Volume 5, the only writers who felt very consistent about how they wrote the character was Jeff Lemire and Andrew Kreisberg. I would say Ben Percy had a pretty good idea with him when it comes to Rebirth stuff, which was awesome, by the way. But it felt like afterwards, it felt like, what was the point of basically like keeping this? It felt like basically like all the cool stuff. It's like we're gonna do more stuff with the character, and it's like nope, let's just do stuff that's not what readers wanted. You could say the book, the last run ended because of low sales, but I kind of blame the sales slippage on the change of creative teams. I blame that for the ending of Volume 6. Not just because DC axed the book, because they want to have Bendis take over the character. I think the book got canceled once Ben Percy left the book. I felt as though the last year of the book was not as good as it once was. I would say the only good creative team who wrote the book as Ben Percy left were the Bensons. The last few issues, I actually liked the last few issues that Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing did. It just those first 4 issues were rough to go through. They were not that good. I have to end it here because I have a stream to do. So please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do that like button. Well, I may have another video come out later, but who knows. Okay, next video. Bye.